As the final rays of sunlight faded from the horizon, Thomas began his gentle ascent up the spiral stairs, each step measured out with deliberate care. The worn stone beneath his feet had been polished by years of footsteps, and he knew every groove and curve by heart. He counted each step as he climbed, his voice low and soothing. 1, 2, 3. The iron railing wrapped around the staircase like a gentle hug, its rough texture a comfort against Thomas's hands as he supported himself on the way up. The small windows above him, framed in worn wood, cast faint shadows on the walls below, like a soft watercolour painting come to life. As he neared the top, Thomas paused for a moment, taking in the view of the sea stretching out before him. The sky was a deepening shade of pink and gold, with the first hints of twilight beginning to creep across the horizon. He took his time reaching the top, each movement slow and careful, as if savouring the sight unfolding before him. With deft fingers, Thomas lit the lamp, its soft glow casting a warm light over the room. The gentle hum of the oil burner provided a soothing background noise, like a lullaby sung by an unseen choir. He moved with precision, each step a calculated movement as he tended to his lantern. Just as he did every evening, Thomas thought to himself, as if it were a habit he couldn't shake. As he sat in his chair, the soft cushions enveloping him like a warm hug, Thomas's gaze drifted out to sea. The waves lapped gently against the shore below. The rhythmic motion, a constant heartbeat, seemed to match the very pulse of his own being. The colours of twilight deepened and richened, the sky a swirling vortex of pinks, blues, and purples, like a masterpiece painted by an unseen artist. Seabirds settled in for the night, their soft calls punctuating the air as they took up their evening roosting spots on the rocks below. Thomas watched them with quiet contentment, his eyes tracing the gentle movements of each bird as it preened and settled into its nest. As the silence deepened, Thomas's thoughts turned to more mundane pleasures. Like a warm cup of tea, he stood up slowly, each movement measured out, and made his way to the stove. The water boiled in a gentle hiss, releasing a soft plume of steam that wafted upwards like a promise. As he waited for it to cool, Thomas took his time measuring out the tea leaves. 1 small pinch, 2, 3. The ritual a soothing balm for his weary soul. The warmth of the teacup seeped into his hands as he lifted it to his lips, the soft ceramic a comforting fit against his skin. He sipped slowly, the bitter flavours mingling on his tongue like old friends reunited after a long time apart. The sound of the tea leaves unfurling in the water was like music to his ears, a gentle susurrus that seemed to lull the world into a peaceful slumber. As he waited for the tea to steep, Thomas turned his attention to his book, an old leather-bound volume with yellowed pages and a familiar scent that transported him back to years of quiet mornings spent in this very chair. He opened it slowly, his eyes scanning the text until he found the page he wanted, a passage that always brought a sense of peace and calm. The words blurred together as Thomas read, his gaze drifting out to sea once more. The stars were beginning to twinkle like diamonds scattered across the velvet expanse above, the gentle light casting a soft glow over the room. He named each constellation in turn: Orion, Cassiopeia, Andromeda, the familiar sounds of the celestial map etched into his mind like a gentle tattoo. As the last star vanished from view and the darkness deepened, Thomas slowly closed his book, its weighty pages settling onto the table with a soft thud. He stood up, each movement slow and careful, and began his descent down the stairs, creaking floorboards beneath his feet, like an old sigh of contentment. In his room above, Thomas settled into bed, the softness of his sheets enveloping him like a warm hug. As he lay there, listening to the distant waves lapping against the shore below. He felt his eyelids growing heavy, like lead weight sinking through his skin. The sound of the sea was like a gentle cradle song, rocking him into deep and peaceful sleep. In this small, peaceful world, nothing ever changed, yet everything seemed to come alive in its own quiet way. Thomas's breathing slowed, his chest rising and falling with a steady rhythm that echoed the pulse of the waves below. As he drifted off to sleep, the darkness wrapped around him like a soft blanket, a comforting shroud that promised a peaceful night's rest. Thomas woke up to the sound of the sun peeking through the window, casting a warm glow over his room. He stretched his arms and yawned, feeling the softness of his bed envelop him like a cloud. As he sat up, he noticed the gentle lapping of the waves against the shore below, a soothing melody that seemed to match the rhythm of his own heart. He swung his legs over the side of the bed and planted his feet firmly on the floor, feeling the soft carpet beneath his feet. He took a deep breath, savoring the scent of salt water and seaweed that filled his nostrils. It was a smell he had grown to love over the years, one that transported him back to moments of peace and tranquility. Thomas stood up slowly, his joints creaking softly as he stretched. He made his way to the window and pulled back the curtains, letting the warm sunlight flood into his room. The sky was a brilliant blue, with not a cloud in sight. He smiled, feeling a sense of gratitude for this small, peaceful world he had created. As he gazed out at the sea, Thomas's thoughts turned to the day ahead. He knew that it would be a quiet one, spent tending to his garden and reading books by the fire. It was a simple life, but one that brought him great joy. He took a deep breath, feeling the cool breeze fill his lungs, and began his daily routine. First, he made himself a pot of tea, just as he had done the night before. The ritual was soothing, and Thomas found that it helped him focus his mind and prepare for the day ahead. As he sipped his tea, he gazed out at the sea, watching the waves roll in and out with a steady rhythm. With his teacup empty, Thomas made his way to the garden, where he spent the morning tending to his plants and flowers. The scent of damp earth and growing life filled his nostrils, and he felt a sense of contentment wash over him. It was moments like these that reminded him why he loved living in this small, seaside cottage. As the morning wore on, Thomas took a break from gardening to sit by the fire and read. He had chosen a book about the history of the coast, one that had been written by a local author. The words blurred together as he read, but he felt a sense of connection to the place and its people. As the sun began to set, Thomas closed his book and stood up, feeling a sense of satisfaction with the day's work. He took a final look out at the sea, watching the sky turn pink and orange as the stars began to twinkle in the night sky. With a contented sigh, Thomas made his way back upstairs, where he spent the evening reading by the fire and listening to the sound of the waves outside. It was a peaceful night, one that ended with him drifting off to sleep, feeling grateful for this small, peaceful world he had created. But as he drifted off, Thomas couldn't shake the feeling that something was missing. A sense of restlessness lingered at the edge of his consciousness, a gentle whisper that seemed to say, "There's more to life than just the sea and the garden." Thomas smiled to himself, knowing that he would have to wait until tomorrow to explore this feeling further. Thomas woke up early, feeling a sense of restlessness that he couldn't shake. He had tried to sleep off the feeling, but it lingered in the back of his mind like a gentle hum. As he sat up and swung his legs over the side of the bed, he noticed that the room was bathed in a soft, golden light. He got out of bed and began his morning routine, feeling a sense of disconnection from the world outside. The sea and the garden seemed to be calling to him, but he couldn't quite connect with them today. He made himself a pot of tea and sat down at the table, staring out at the window as he sipped. As he waited for his tea to cool, Thomas's thoughts turned to his past. He had always loved this place, but there was something missing in his life. He couldn't quite put his finger on it, but he knew that he needed to find a way to fulfill some deep-seated longing. Thomas stood up and began his morning chores, feeling a sense of obligation to himself and the world around him. As he swept the floor and tidied up the cottage, he felt a sense of clarity begin to emerge. He realized that the restlessness was coming from a place within himself, not just from the outside world. He spent the morning in contemplation, sitting by the fire and watching the flames dance across the hearth. The words of an old book came to mind. The soul is like the sea, ever-changing and constantly seeking its own shores. Thomas felt a sense of understanding wash over him, as if he was finally beginning to grasp the nature of his own restlessness. As the morning wore on, Thomas began to feel a sense of purpose emerge. He realized that he didn't have to be tied down by the routines and rituals of his daily life. He could take risks, explore new horizons, and follow his heart. But as the thought took hold, Thomas felt a pang of fear. What if he failed? What if he left behind everything he knew and loved? The doubts crept in like a thief, stealing away his confidence and leaving him feeling uncertain and lost. Thomas took a deep breath and let the air fill his lungs. He knew that he couldn't stay stuck in the cycle of doubt and fear forever. He had to take the next step, no matter how scary it seemed. With newfound determination, Thomas stood up and began to make plans for the day ahead. He would start by taking a walk along the coast, feeling the sand between his toes and the wind in his hair. It was a small step, but one that could lead him down a path of discovery and growth. As he walked out into the bright sunlight, Thomas felt a sense of hope rising up within him like the tide. Thomas laced up his boots and set out on his walk along the coast. The sun was high overhead, casting a warm glow over the sandy shore. He breathed in deeply, feeling the salty air fill his lungs, and listened to the sound of the waves crashing against the rocks below. As he walked, Thomas noticed the way the light danced across the water, creating shimmering patterns that seemed almost otherworldly. He felt a sense of peace wash over him, as if he was finally beginning to connect with the world around him. The walk was meditative, each step taking him further along the shoreline. Thomas felt his thoughts begin to clear, like the water washing away the footprints in the sand. He thought about his past and how it had led him to this place. He thought about the present and all its uncertainties. And he thought about the future with all its possibilities. As he rounded a bend in the coast, Thomas spotted something peculiar in the distance: an old wooden boat, half hidden among the rocks. The boat was weathered and worn, but it seemed to be calling to him, like a siren's song. Thomas felt a sudden surge of curiosity. Who had left this boat here? And what stories did it hold? He quickened his pace, his heart beating with excitement. As he approached the boat, Thomas noticed that it was old and well cared for, despite its weathered appearance. There were scratches on the wood and signs of repairs done by some skilled hand. It seemed to be a vessel from another time, one that had seen its share of adventures and hard-won battles. Thomas reached out a hand to touch the boat's wooden hull, feeling a sense of connection with this strange relic. He thought about all the people who might have used this boat: fishermen, sailors, travellers, each with their own stories and dreams. As he stood there, lost in thought, Thomas heard a faint noise behind him. He turned to see an old man emerging from the rocks,